Hello everyone, Jacquie Edwards here. I'm a few minutes late for the live. It is about 1:15 now. I said I'd be on at 1, but we're close enough. I've been dealing with some issues, which is why I wanted to come on and share today is what happens and what you can do when it all goes wrong. Yeah, basically, sometimes things go wrong, as you can be as systemized, as experienced, as awesome as possible, and in rent to rent, in property in general, it's a people business. You're dealing with people. Sometimes people have issues that they have. Just things can happen. So I wanted to share a couple little stories so that if you're finding things hard, if you're kind of worried about things, so I get lots of people that ask me, they ask me, oh, but what happens if things go wrong? What happens? What do I do? And they're really, really worried about, if there's tenant issues or what to do. And my biggest message is everything is figure outable. That's what one of my mentors says. Everything's figure outable. You can figure out what to do and you can deal with it. Nothing is the end of the world, basically. I've had so many crazy things happen since I've, started managing properties and basically become a landlord that you could almost write a book on it, but none of it's killed me. None of it's killed anybody else. We're still going through every day. And yeah, the world keeps running. So a couple of fun stories. This past weekend was absolutely crazy. My property manager went to do one of our normal monthly property maintenance reviews at one of our HMOs. One of our tenants was behaving very, very strangely, and he tried to block her way out of the house. He intimidated her. It got very, very uncomfortable. Luckily, she was able to just get out of the house. She left. Everything was fine. We ended up having to call the police. I talked to a couple of the other tenants to say, hey, did you notice anything weird? They had noticed some weird things, so we ended up having to call the police. I learned very quickly that the police can't really do much of anything unless there's actual violence that happened, even in a shared house when the other housemates feel unsafe. So we had the police and the ambulance at the house, I think 3 times over the weekend for one of the tenants. And I've also learned there's nothing we can do to evict him as well, because he hasn't actually broken any terms of his contract, even though he did some damage to the property, terrified all of his housemates so that they had to go away for the weekend. But yeah, again, it's figure outable. My property manager's quit now because, she doesn't feel safe going to the properties on her own, which is completely understandable. This is the first time this has ever happened in, my 4 years of managing these properties. We do manage for young professionals, so normally everything is fine. But yeah, so I've lost my property manager. I've had to be on the phone with the police and the ambulance all weekend. It's been crazy and exciting, and yeah, we are doing viewings in that house, so some of the tenants are leaving, so we had a whole bunch of viewings scheduled over the weekend. We had to reschedule all of those twice because I didn't feel comfortable sending anybody back again on Monday yet. Things seem to have calmed down now, so we will be doing some viewings this afternoon. Luckily, again, things all work out for the best. Luckily, my property manager is no longer going to work for us. But the person that does my viewings, it was looking for a full-time job because her previous full-time job just ended. Yesterday was her last day, so now she's going to work for us full-time. And she's got a lot more experience working in kind of the property world, not really the property world, but working with people. So she's used to just any kind of craziness. So she's a lot more experienced. So in the end, we're going to have a more experienced person taking care of everything, and which is going to provide a better service to our customers. Even though I had a really rough weekend and my tenants had a really rough weekend and things got a little bit crazy, it all worked out. We've had loads. That stuff has never happened before. Showers always seem to break. So tenants, you get the whiny ones that everything feels like it has to be done instantly. It's the end of the world. It never is the end of the world. If the heating doesn't work for a little while, you can buy them a couple of electric radiators and they'll be warm. If their hot water doesn't work for a little while, again, they can boil a kettle. It's not going to be the end of the world. You can deal with everything as it comes along. So don't let those worries of what's going to happen hold you back from getting started and moving forward in your business, in any venture that you do. Just make sure you've got kind of a plan to mitigate risks. You should always have a bit of a a cash buffer. So you should always have some funds somewhere that if there is an emergency, you can deal with it really quickly. And because you might need to pay for it and then maybe claim on an insurance or get the money back some other way, or the owner pays, whatever. But you should always have something ready. So again, over the winter when we had that really, really cold spell, we had so many boilers stop working. I mean, this happened across the UK where the condensate pipe froze up, and we just had to go and say, hey, I'm sorry, this is just what's happening. There's nothing we can do about it right now. All the gas engineers are super busy, but here is an electric radiator that you can use to keep your room warm in the meantime. I'm sorry, you're not going to have hot water until the pipe unthaws, but it's not the end of the world. So you can deal with pretty much anything that comes. Just keep calm, take a few deep breaths, and just know you don't have to talk to somebody instantly. You don't have to take it when somebody's yelling at you on the phone. You can just calmly hang up and say, oops, sorry, I'll have to call you back. You can figure out absolutely anything. Nothing is the end of the world. And if there is something major, again, you have to get the police involved. So my tenants were calling me this weekend saying they didn't feel comfortable being in the house because this one tenant was having issues. There's nothing I can do about that. I've got no powers. So I finally had to tell one of them, look, I can't just send the guys around with baseball bats. This is something the police have to deal with. So if you don't feel safe in your house, you have to call the police. You can't call me. And even I tried calling the police on their behalf and the police wouldn't listen to me. They needed to talk to the person that was actually there and having the incident occur to them. So if there's an emergency, there are emergency channels that people need to use. It's the same thing. I get a lot of people asking me, well, I don't want to have to answer my phone 24 hours a day. You don't have to. Just make sure you've got procedures in place. So we've talked to a local plumber, we've talked to a local heating engineer and just said, hey, we've got a number of properties. If there's a problem at one of our properties in the middle of the night, can our tenants call you directly? Yep. All right. Sorted. So if there is a major leak at one of the properties, on our notice board, we've got a little note that says, if you've got a leak or any flooding, call this phone number. So they don't call us in the middle of the night, because even if they called me, what am I going to do? I can't fix their plumbing leak. I'm just going to call that plumber. So we just say, don't call us, call them. In the day at noon, and you've got a small issue, give us a call. If it's flooding, if there's a fire, call 999. It's those types of things. That just, you don't have to deal with them. You're not the right person. Make sure you've got the processes in place so that your tenants know where to go when there's an emergency. Oh, Nicola's saying, you've had a similar issue with a tenant. We were unsure if we should phone the police about them. Yep, I mean, the police couldn't really do anything. They went and visited, and they basically just said, yep, he's fine. And then they left. The neighbors actually called the police as well because he was harassing people that were walking by, and it was all a little bit crazy. But yeah, the police can go. For me, it gave me the sense of comfort that I've sent the police have said it's okay. I've done everything I can. So if something does go wrong, I can say the police told me it was fine. It's their responsibility then if it all goes wrong after that. So, yep. I initially just called my local phone number, so the Thames Valley Police. I called them and talked to them initially. And then when they were very, very unhelpful, and I actually feared for my tenant's life, I did call 999 and I spoke to the ambulance service. And again, they were super helpful. And they sent somebody around. Again, they said, nope, he's fine. Everything's okay. There's nothing we can do. And then I just felt comfortable that at least I've done whatever I can. So, yeah, you can talk to them. They can help you. There's always somebody else. The buck in real emergency situations doesn't really stop with you. You should make sure that you've put the right fire safety features in place. So they should have fire doors and fire alarms and things like that. And they should have the phone numbers that they need to call in an emergency. So, even on my notice board, if I say, if there's a fire, get out and call 999. So I've got those instructions there so that if people do have a problem, I've shared with them exactly what they need to do. But if they've got a fire, they shouldn't be calling me because I'm not going to know what to do. I'm not going to be able to come and put it out. So having those processes in place and just knowing from your own standpoint, you can figure everything out. You can take care of it all. Nothing is going to be so overwhelming that you can't deal with it, or you can't find somebody to help you deal with it. Again, that's a great reason why, being involved in this community or in your local property networking meetings, just so that you've got a little bit of a support group or somewhere to kind of say, hey, I'm dealing with this. What do you think I should do? Now, you can always take all that advice with a, pinch of salt, but yeah, there's always a way to get through everything. So if you're feeling nervous or if you've had an incident and you didn't know what to do, yeah, don't worry. You'll always have a solution. Things never run smoothly in a business where you're dealing with people all the time. Maybe if you had, an IT company and all you had to do was, do a couple of software coding. I don't know anything about this. It could be a lot more than that. Then there's not the whole people element. So things can be quite the same. Anytime you're dealing with people, there's always going to be issues and things that happen. I mean, we've got some tenants that, they're lovely, lovely people, but they'll get a little bug in their head about something and just pick at you and go crazy and make you feel like you're the worst person in the world. We just raised the rents for one of our tenants. We haven't raised his rent in 2 years, and he's absolutely livid. He wants me to talk to him. He wants to call his solicitor. I'm not going to get upset about that. In the past, I probably would have, and it would have really stressed me out. Now, I basically say, yep, that's fine. You can talk to your solicitor. He'll give you the correct process, which is outlined on the letter that we sent you of what you need to do to go to the rent tribunal if you disagree with your rent increase. It's just knowing how to just relax and deal with people calmly. Patience is not one of my many virtues, but I've learned a lot of it over the past few years in dealing with tenants, and a lot of it is just saying, yep, you can feel free to talk to your solicitor, you can feel free to complain to whoever you want to complain to, as long as you're doing everything that you need to do to make sure your house is safe and comfortable to live in. Sometimes things just break and don't go according to plan. You're working on fixing it. No, it doesn't happen overnight. If they do call the solicitor, if they do call citizens advice, and they're like, oh, well, I told you my washing machine was broken a week ago and you haven't fixed it. I want you to pay for all my dry cleaning. You know what? I've sent the engineer. Sometimes things don't get fixed overnight. It takes time. As long as it hasn't been 6 months, you're not going to have to pay for the dry cleaning. You can just tell them, hey, we're working on it. No, we don't pay those things unless we haven't fixed it, but we're working on it. A week is a pretty reasonable amount of time before we have to order a new washing machine. Sorted. So anyways, I just wanted to share that because I know a lot of people stress out about how are we going to fix it? How are we going to maintain things? How are we going to keep things under control? You can definitely do it. Stay calm, put the processes in place, and you can manage everything. With that, I'm going to go back and enjoy the sunshine, and I've got a whole load of things to do today as I'm getting my new property manager up and running. So have a wonderful day, and I will see you again next week.